Welcome to the Better Outcomes podcast, where we discuss all things leadership, sales, and communication in Australian business. At Better Outcomes Training, we provide world-class training solutions for businesses who want to arm their teams with cutting-edge skills to lead better, sell better, and enjoy more success, purpose, and profit from the work they do. For a full breakdown of all the courses we offer, visit www.better-outcomes.com.au. There's also a link in the description. Now, on to today's podcast. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Better Outcomes Training Podcast. I've got Paulie opposite me here, and he's really giggling. I've already wound him off the end. He's in Sydney. Maybe that's got something to do with it. He's away on business, but he's graciously given up some of his time to give us some pieces of advice today. Paulie, how are you?
Mate, I'm absolutely electrifying. Absolutely. I'm in Sydney right now, which is a little bit strange because whilst I've done a lot of business in Sydney, it's a little bit sort of under the radar just because I'm literally dialed in for 4 days. It's like bang, 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 and got a big emerging leadership workshop to train. So it's I haven't reached out to anybody. So anybody who's watching this is Sydney based and saying, Paulie Plonker, you should have given us a call. We would have loved to have catch up. Yeah, I would love to as well, but I know how those nights are going to go. So
yes.
Please take my sincerest apologies, and we'll do it. We'll do it another time. Promise.
all work this week, yeah, Paulie. No play. Big job. I know you've been looking forward to this one for a while. So
yeah, it's a big one for a client. They've given me 4 days with their emerging leadership for their national leadership, which is going to be phenomenal. It's their sort of their next group up. So they're emerging leaders. So really opportunity to get some good foundations, get some good habits going, and give them some techniques and reflections to help them with what they do.
Excellent. Best of luck with it, buddy.
Sure.
I've got a day off today. RDO for me today, which is good because this old rig needs a rest, man.
Right.
After coming back from Bali and getting stuck into it.
Yeah.
It's taking its toll. Plus the weather's freezing. What's happened to the weather in Melbourne?
I don't know.
God.
Sydney's quite nice, huh? Sydney's nice.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's not as nice as Bali, but it's pretty good, yeah. So anyway, back to business. Now today,
Yes.
We thought it would be a good idea to share some wisdom, share some advice that we've either been passed on to us over the years, or that we think has been quite relevant to what we've been through, and we'd like to pass some of it on, and in the hopes that it can help some people out there and give them a little bit of guidance through tough times. So, having said that, Paulie, you're up first, mate. What's a good piece of advice you can hand to the people out there that you've used or come across in your life?
Yeah. Okay. So we actually did some preparation for this podcast, mate. I'm
I know,
impressed.
mad, yeah? Mad.
It's not all just ad hoc. Folks, I've been very fortunate that really, especially developing a deep desire and thirst for learning over the last sort of 18 years has been. I've been very fortunate with that because I think that if we can take that on, you can start learning from a lot of other people's journeys, and you can get great advice, great guidance from that as well. But there's going to be some bits and bobs here that I took from sort of the whole story coming up. And the first one I've got to say I literally got when I was about 10 years old, which was quite weird. But at about 10 years old, I was absolutely fascinated by wrestling. And pro wrestling, particularly. I didn't know the difference between wrestling and Olympic wrestling or anything like that at 10, okay? But I remember after a particularly hard afternoon of watching Hulk Hogan and Superfly Jimmy Snooker, and I went to my father very seriously. I said to him, and he was in his workshop, he was doing something, hammering something out of doing something, I don't know. And I said to him, Dad, I know what I want to do in my life. He goes, what? And I said, I want to be a fighter. And he looked at me and he said that the words he said was something along the lines of, learn to use your head first rather than your body, because your body will break down quicker than what your mind will. Now, that was in hindsight, I suppose, decent or good guidance. The problem was at that time, I didn't know how to use my head. Academia and me were not very good friends. So I really thought this was going to be an entire life of being misunderstood. You don't know how to think. Your academia is terrible. People telling you got learning disabilities and things like that. And that was, at the moment, at that particular time, although I thought I might have been a good pro wrestler, I think at that time, it wasn't what I wanted to hear. It really wasn't, because I thought my mind was broken. My school results would have proven my mind is broken as well, because I was pretty stupid. But I think in hindsight, especially as you get older, and we've spoken so much about this with training and stuff like that, and you do pick up injuries, but if you keep working on your mind, you keep nurturing your mind, developing your mind, learning new skills to be able to communicate with people, to be able to do business. And I think most importantly, to be able to develop, good friendship with yourself, and a good relationship with yourself. And again, I think the vast majority of time, and we've spoken about this a lot, but I think it's very easy to be your own worst enemy. And I think the vast majority of people are in that situation where they're battling that internal dialogue very often, until they learn how to start using their mind in the right way. And I think that was good guidance. I think it was very good guidance for me, because, as you get older, you start to pick up injuries, particularly playing things like rugby and, doing jiu-jitsu and everything else. Even facilitating, going out and training takes a shed load out of you. I mean, this week, 4 days in a row, you'll be broken at the end of it. You don't sleep properly and stuff like that. But if you keep your mind in the right place, then everything else you'll still be able to move forward with certain things.
Absolutely. Having clicked over 50 this year, it's like all of a sudden the body's just decided to be a lot sorer, a lot more precious, a lot more fragile than money. But speaking of dads, my dad had a bit of a habit of messaging me every Christmas. And he'd say, I've just hung up the boots. I've just put away the nail bag, because my dad's a carpenter and a builder. Has been since he was 15, left school. And he'd text me like, I've just hung up the carpenter's apron for the 50th year in a row. And he's into his 60th year now. So he's been wearing that nail bag for 60 odd years. Wow. And I said to him a few years back, you just triggered the memory. I said to him a few years back, so if you had your time over, would you do it all again? Would you be a chippy? Yeah. And the response came back via text, but I could feel the passion. And it said, hell no, boy. I'd be smart and be an accountant or someone and use my brain and someone else's money.
Really?
So he's on the same page as your dad, but a little bit further in the line. So, but yeah, using your body first to make money should always be a fallback, I believe.
Yeah.
And another piece of good advice that my dad gave me, which is one I want to talk to you about, is one I've spoken about on the podcast before, and it's always, he used to tell me, especially in terms of building a house, this was, always make sure that you're thinking about the next person down the line or the next trade around you. In terms of if you make their job a little bit easier or show a bit of thought towards what they have to do, that'll make their job easier. In turn, it'll come back to you, and everything gets along well. And I've always tried to hold that thought with whatever I do, making sure that anyone I interact with at work or that I'm actually working with, or any interactions around, you always get along well with them. You always make sure you try and make their day as good as possible. I mean, sometimes you got to spend as much time with the people at work as you do at home these days, so it can be quite taxing. So making sure that you think about the other people at work and try and get along with them a little bit more is always a bit of advice that worked well for me.
Yeah, I really like that, mate, and doing it intentionally. I think we talk a lot about intention here, but that rule with regards to doing it intentionally for other people, I think but again, I think it really speaks to, where your dad was coming from with that type of thing, because it takes if you think about it, cuz it takes a very, very high degree of self-awareness and almost good professional self-esteem to be able to do that. Because I promise you right now, as soon as you and I said that whole thing with regards to show other people how you bring value to their table, and that whole conversation that we had, I promise you, and the conversations I've had with people before who have had vicious situations in the workplace environment. People who are getting written up and getting warnings and stuff like that. And I've said to them, listen, start showing other people how you bring value to their role, and you're going to have less conflict with them. And the response is, well, no, why should I start doing that? Because nobody else has done that for me. It's just like, it's got to start somewhere, But I mean, for your dad to be able to say that, it's like, that is an extraordinarily selfless thing to be able to say. And I got to say this, man. I mean, growing up and, playing rugby with a lot of you Kiwis and associating with a lot of you Kiwis as well, there is a real selfless aspect to a lot of you Kiwis, for real. It's like, it's not sort of big noting yourself or anything like that. And there was very few Kiwis I ever had any problems with. And it doesn't surprise me that, your dad would have said something like that. And had that thought process, which is very cool, man. Very, very cool.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's always something that I've taken on board with me, whatever job I was doing, wherever I was, jobs, sports teams, social life, the whole lot. So making sure that I was taking care of the people around me, and making sure that they're trying to smooth out the path for them a little bit. And it didn't really come back to me until probably 10 or 15 years ago, when I realized that there was a lot of people who come up to me and say, oh, it's so much better working with you. Things just seem to flow better, and, everyone seems to have a good time. We still get the work done. We smash it through it. So it's just that, I guess, wanting to make sure that I was pretty good at what I did too. And part of being pretty good at what you do is making sure that you understand all aspects of it and how it affects other people, what you're doing has on other people or other trades or other bits of the industry that come in. So making sure you can make any friction, or anytime you bump up against other people, as smooth as possible, I think helps the process as well.
Absolutely. 100%. I don't think that you lose for that. I think a lot of people I think you get a knee-jerk reaction maybe if people are terrified of being taken advantage of. That might be the fear. But again, if that professional self-esteem is in the right place, it's much easier to do that because you don't have that same degree of perceived downside risk,
Yeah, that's right. And especially if it only takes a couple of minutes of your day, or you barely even notice it, just becomes a habit. It just makes the next person's job so much smoother.
Absolutely.
And then maybe they can pass it on to the next person, and you get the ball rolling. So bit of paying it forward, maybe. Bit of that one.
Yeah. I like that. Fantastic. Okay, so it's back to me now, is it?
Must be. You've already mentioned my next one, but you go.
Oh, damn. Sorry, man. Okay. So the second one I've got is leave people better than what you found them. And this is actually something that I've tweaked into that 3-second rule. So you've heard the 3-second rule before. We've spoken about it on here. 3-second rule says that if you decide to take it on, if you've got at least 3 seconds with somebody, it's your responsibility to make sure they leave your company in a better frame of mind than when they came into it. Now, this understanding and this little technique has been something that it's reared its head once or twice. And I did hear, what's the guy's name? Will Smith once say it, although I can't really go quoting Will Smith now that he's got himself into a bit of trouble with slapping people.
Got himself in a bit of trouble, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it hasn't aged that well. But apparently his mother used to say, leave people better than you find them. But where I came up across this or bumped up across this was in a couple of different experiences in the nightclub industry. And the 2 or 3 times it happened, it sort of occurred to me, went through my head. But one time when I was working actually in a bar, in a bar called the Kaz Bar, which was one of the sub bars at Tiger. And what struck me was, you can get a real good momentum working behind the bar. It's slammed, it's busy, and you're in the flow, and you're working well with the other bartenders and barbacks and stuff like that as well. And so this was when I was on that bar. I've moved on to that bar, and it was I remember thinking we were really flowing well. And I remember these customers were coming up, and they come up with a face like thunder, and they can interact with you, and they can leave your company feeling better about themselves. And it was that little thought process that somebody's come to the bar and they've got a very small amount of time, but the way that you interact with them, effectively, you can change their emotional state. So they come up to the bar, and it's like maybe they're feeling very anxious, or maybe they're just pissed off, or maybe, something's happened, and you can have a very quick interaction with them. and they can literally, feel better about themselves when they leave your company. And that worked really, really well, because you start building a nice vibe around that bar. Bartenders start getting on well. There's good money getting, tips are working out well. Even if you have a customer who comes to the bar second or third time, they come and seek you out, and it's just like you remember their order. It's like same again. It's like 4 drinks. It's like yeah, and it's like it's that degree of significance. It's like what we talk about with regards to the status elevation. They feel, oh, I've been recognized. It's like, that's a nice feeling, and it's like, you can be, you can be sort of trying to chat to somebody that you fancy, and that's not working out well. And, you're getting bumped by people on the dance floor, and they're much bigger than you. So you can't even give them a dirty look, but, and you feel like really rubbish about all of that. And you go back to the bar and you feel better about yourself again. It's like, you had a good interaction. You had a good interaction with a bartender. It struck me, and it struck me that, and then a couple of other times as well. It's like I'm in a position where people can interact with me a very small amount of time, but if we have the opportunity to change somebody's physical, mental, and emotional state like that, that becomes a beautiful gift to contribute to people. And I'll tell you, that 3-second rule has never stopped giving me back. I could probably argue it certainly saved me from a beating one night, a real beating. I don't know if it would have saved my life, but it was, there was not good things were going to come after that. But because, you've done good things for other people, you kind of get looked after to some degree there as well. But my aunt still talks about that story. So there we go. So that's my second one.
Well, it's something that I take on. It's something that you've impressed on me, and I take it on a little bit, from everything from making sure that they know I appreciate their coffee order. The way they the way they made my long black yesterday. To my favourite one that's going around at the moment is if anyone asks me how I'm going, say I'm living someone's dream, mate. And they go, well, because most tradies are like, oh, living the dream. I go, I'm living someone's dream. They're like, oh, really? Whose dream? I don't know, some weirdo out there who wants to punish himself and get up early in the cold, wear shorts. And I'm living their dream. So, and it just changes, just that little bit of interaction with someone. And I think it's because you stand out from the ordinary, you're
Absolutely.
not just the same old mundane replies and whatnot. You do the same thing as everyone else, you get average results, but change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I reckon it goes well.
No, I'm with you, brother. 100% on that one. Absolutely.
I like that. I love that 3-second rule. I love that one. It brings me on to my next one, and you mentioned it earlier. It's underestimating the value that you bring to the table. This one for me has been a game changer since I discovered this and realised this about myself.
Beautiful.
And still realising it today. Apparently, I've got some editing skills that I didn't know I had.
Phenomenal.
So look out. What a laugh. But I think this comes from the human brain being negatively wired. Easy to find mistakes that we've done, very hard to pick out our strengths. You've talked about this. We've talked about it before. If you ask someone to name, 10 of their mistakes that they've had in the last week, they'll probably give you 50. But asking them to name 10 good things they've done in the last week, and you struggle to get past 2 or 3 because you can't see, it's harder for you to see the things that you've accomplished, but you kind of wallow in misery of your defeats and you're hard on yourself. And then that stems into a little bit of, you don't really understand how valuable you can be, what skills you've got, the common knowledge and the experience that you've got in yourself, that others see. Others see it in myself. I see it in other people, and they just don't see it. So understanding what you actually bring to the table, it gives you, boosts your confidence for one thing, because it makes you understand, geez, I can do that. I've been ignoring that part. I've got to concentrate on it a little bit more. But understanding that, and understanding that we've all got a form of common knowledge in us that's unique to us in terms of our experiences, what we've been through, our past, our jobs, our life, all that's come together.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like myself just think, well, that's, everyone knows this stuff, but we don't. No one knows it. It can be a revelation to others. I mean, it's just, I've written a little bit here just saying that, for decades, I saw myself as just a carpenter and a builder, very good at that. I didn't think I had any other skills whatsoever. And once I started to realize the other stuff that I could do and what I'd been through and how I can communicate with people, all of a sudden it's opened up doors and options for me. So that's quite a valuable one. Just understanding the value that you bring to the table. Yeah, we talk about this quite often, Paulie.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Cuz, what would you think if I made this statement, mate? Just on that base, before we go on to my next point, is that I believe everybody's got a natural predisposition to being good in a particular area or particular niche. The thing is, they just have to be able to find it first. So that everybody has something that they've got a genetic predisposition towards being good at. But the thing is, I think it's very often, and again, maybe the comfort zone plays into this, where we don't try a lot of different things, so we don't know what we're good at. I think there are some people, a lot of people who excel in certain areas, and I would never, ever, ever use the word luck, but they are people who've stumbled onto what they're good at very early on. And then they've been able to do it. And I think that a lot of the time people don't, for the risk of not getting things right or whatever the factor is, they don't try new things a lot of the time. So you don't find out what you're really good at. And then also there's those skill set stacks as well. You know, that cartoonist Dilbert, I remember from the guy you mentioned the other day.
Yes.
He said he's not the best comedian and he's not the best artist, but if he can combine the two of those, and I think there was something else he had as well, life experience in the corporate or something like that, he was able to bring those three things together to make him best in his little niche there. And what do you reckon about that? Everybody's got that genetic predisposition to being great at something. One thing, it's just a matter of being able to find out what it is.
I don't know too much about the genetic predisposition. I'm not even sure what that means. But what I do think is that there's something that all of us are either can be very good at or really like to do, you know, like a passion. And some people have are fortunate enough to be able to pursue that. Others aren't. I remember at school, when we were at school, we always used to get told, oh, music and art, don't worry about that stuff. You can't make money from music and art. What are you going to do? Be a rock star or something? Come on. You leave school and either go and get a trade or go in the army. Like that was just what it was, you know. I don't know. There's probably a conspiracy theory out there about who set up the schooling to make us workers and not artists or something along those lines. But I think everyone, if you've got the option to do what you really like or chase what you really like and do that, that's beautiful. Because I try to tell my kids, I mean, you look at sports stars, yeah? I've talked about this before. Kelly Slater, one of the world's best surfer for years, the GOAT. I mean, you're cricketers, rugby players, footballers, soccer players. They live in their dream. It doesn't feel like work to them. They're doing what they love. They're getting paid a lot of money. They're flying all around the world. If you could end up in that kind of position, like similar to what you're doing at the moment, you love what you do.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people who don't have the opportunity for whatever reason, for whatever circumstance, can't do it. So if you've got the ability to go and do it and the option to go and do it, by all means, take it on, I think.
You see, but I think when I say genetic predisposition, I mean something that people are born for, you know, they have some genetically, they are good at that type of thing. But I think a lot of the time it's a minuscule amount of people who actually find out what they're really good. I mean, you've identified surfers and stuff like that, but I mean, speaking and training is something I stumbled into. I literally stumbled into. I was terrified of doing it, absolutely terrified of doing it, until I got put into that position. You know, working back at the financial brokerages. And starting there, and it was something just terrifying. It wasn't something certainly wasn't something I was good at to start with. You know, I really, really don't think that. But I think that people just having the guts to go and try different things, I think, is a big thing. You know, and just something they resonate with, even if they're just reading about it slowly and quietly and doing it for free to start with as well. You know,
that's right. Yeah. I mean, maybe that holds people back as well. Not maybe. Money holds people back a lot. They're not doing what they love because it doesn't pay as much as what their current job does or something like that. You know, there's a lot of circumstances around not being able to do what you love, I guess.
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, nobody's going to pay us to sit on the beach and drink beers in a hammock, But if you can take what you enjoy to do and find a way to serve people with it and add a margin on it, that's another webinar we could do something on, mate, with regards to finding what you're passionate about, finding a way to serve people with it, and then adding a margin on there. That's something we could talk about that I think be valuable. But yeah, it's just it's a matter, I think, of going out and trying new things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of free information out there at the moment.
Yes, absolutely, more than there ever has been.
That's right. You got an internet connection. You've got podcasts, YouTube, blogs, all sorts of. You got Reddit, all sorts of forums out there, so you can hunt down any information you need about pretty much any topic. Yeah,
absolutely. So my next point is, and I got this from a movie. Yeah.
Oh, good.
The world meets nobody halfway. The world meets nobody halfway, and this was a movie that I watched as a kid. It was a Sylvester Stallone movie called Over the Top. It was about arm wrestling. Yes. His name was Lincoln Hawks. And he was a truck driver. And I think his wife had got really sick, and she came from a very wealthy family, and she'd had the son. They had a son together, and then because the mother got sick, the grandfather took over the raising of the kid and sent him to like military school and stuff like that. And then there was this whole big back and forth battle as to custody, and if Sylvester Stallone was going to get his kid back and all of this. And his kid's having a bit of a meltdown the one time, saying how he's sort of taking a bit of an entitled type of approach. And Hawks turns around to him and he goes, this world beats nobody halfway. And I just thought, that's cool. That's very cool. You got to fight and scratch for everything that you're after. And everybody's got a story about dealing with somebody who believes they're entitled. And it's like, if you're entitled, I think it's a very short-lived time frame before you figure out that life doesn't play that game, because everybody's got to pay the piper somewhere along the line. If you got that belief that something's owed to you, somewhere along the line, you're gonna catch it. You're gonna catch a little bit of a challenge there.
That's right. Yeah. Every time I hear someone's out of work, or they're struggling to find a job or whatnot, and they're sitting at home, like, mate, they're not going to come and see you, no matter how awesome you are at whatever it is you do. No one's going to come knocking down your door because they found you haven't got a job. You got to go out there and find it. You got to go out there and tell people, put yourself in front of people, push, take something take some job that sucks until you get, So it is always a fight, and there's going to have to be a time sooner or later where you bang your head up against that wall, and maybe you want to be tough enough to just have a go at it, eh?
You know what? Absolutely. You know what? There was something that's come to mind now. There was a post I saw. It was about somebody who was dealing with relationships and stuff like that, and talking about finding the one. And there was something I had to add there with regards to the one. The one is not going. If you're single and you're looking to mingle or what have you, you're not going to find that special person by sitting on the couch watching Magnum or something like that. It's like you got to go out and earn it. Just because you're a good person doesn't mean that the Mr. or Mrs. Right is going to come breaking into the window. It's like you got to go out and make something happen there. You got to be that person to attract that person.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
That came out of left field there. I think it's been a long day traveling, but
moving on. My next one is about setting big goals and then breaking them into small, easier to achieve steps.
Yeah.
This one for me is a bit of a game changer. It's got a lot to do with habits. I've done a bit of research around habits over the last couple of years, with a bit of a journey that I've been on, a few goals that I set myself. And it's the small steps that you don't notice, the small improvements, the little 1% getting better every day. You stop and you turn and look back after a couple of months and you realize how far you've come.
Beautiful.
You can't, the old adage, you can't climb the mountain in one step. It takes a lot of little steps to get you up there. So making sure that you set your goals, which I think are important, but more importantly, you break those goals down to smaller, achievable steps and just slowly start ticking those off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Perfect example is when we started jiu-jitsu, and I decided I wanted to lose a bit of weight. So I started walking at nights and walking. And then I thought, geez, I've dropped a bit of weight here. Maybe I could have a bit of a run. So I'd run 100 meters or so until the path. There's a lake down, Cherry Lake, just down the road from me. It's about 3.5 k's round. And I think I'll just run to that corner. So I'd run to that corner, walk for a bit, and then run a bit more. And the next time I'd run a bit further. And it just kind of compounded. And then I managed to run halfway, all the way back to where I started from. That's pretty cool. And then the following week, I managed to run a whole lap, which is 3.5 k's, which was mind-blowing to me. I ran 3.5 k's in one go, which I hadn't done since I was probably at school or not long after I left school. So it'd been 20 odd years. And then those little gains just kept going, and my mind kept expanding, saying, hey, you can do this. You can run 3.5. Why can't you run 5? And then I ended up running 10K for charity in under an hour, which was a laugh. Now, having said that, there was a few pulled hamstrings along the way. The calf muscle off the bone with old mate here, trying to get through one syllabus.
Yeah.
There were a few injuries along the way. It wasn't all plain sailing, people, but that really showed me that if you just put the effort in and you start small, you're not going to see the result straight away. You're not. But if you slowly just try and get a little bit better every day and keep showing up, turn around and have a look back after a year, wow, it can be a massive change. Is that something you're on board with there, Paulie?
Absolutely, 100%. And I think, you know what, I think it's not what you achieve, of course, is important. It absolutely is. But here's the other thing. I think people are so focused on achieving certain outcomes, which absolutely we want, because we want those milestones. But more importantly than that, mate, it's the type of person that you become along the journey.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing, man. You look at all of these, and I think in our culture, in the culture sort of that we're in, our culture celebrates people with immense wealth, but people who are self-made and have made their own money, very often people who are very, very wealthy, you find how they've become very wealthy, then they've lost it all, and then they've made it all back again. And it's not that it was the money that they had, it was the type of person they became, and the way that they thought, and the type of person they became on that journey that ultimately allowed them to get that particular outcome. It's the person who gets the outcome. Yes, that person learns the strategies and gets a social proof with previous experiences and good stuff like that, but it's that person that you become way more, I think, than what you amass. Because you see, again, some of these people who get to that point, they lose it all and they rebuild it again because they have that internal confidence that they've built through the forge of adversity and resilience,
Precisely. The journey changes you so much.
Yeah.
It's why I always say having goals is important, but understanding that during that journey, you're going to change as a person. You're going to change your attitude, maybe your even beliefs, your ideas on what you are and what you can become. Yeah. And so somewhere along that road to that journey towards that goal, you might decide that's not even what I want anymore. Absolutely. I'm better than that. I'm aiming further, or I'm going over this way. And you not only are you getting closer towards the goal, but you're opening up more options for yourself. And as you change, so that's a massive part. Learning to appreciate the journey is probably the biggest part. It's huge.
Yeah. I know that's fantastic, man. Absolutely brilliant. Excuse me. We're back to me.
Yep, must be you.
Okay. All right. So, this one has come with another story as well, and I know I've shared this one before as well, but this goes back to a guy that I had a lot of problems with when I was about 16 and 17, and I really disliked him, really disliked him. And I was telling my mate how much I disliked him, and my mom came in and unwittingly overheard what I was saying, and I won't embarrass the Celtic gods by doing her accent at this particular time, but she said to me in no uncertain terms that she'd heard what I'd said about that boy, and she knew him, and she referred to him as a wee lad, and he wasn't a wee lad. He's bigger than I was, so he was near a wee lad there. But she said to me that she said to me his mother still loves him, and that was a big changing point for him, because it was like, it gave me an insight that the thing is that the negativity that I had towards this guy and my thought process about how bad he was, and I thought in my mind at that age that he was just a bad guy. But then my mother saying that to me, firstly, gave me no ammunition. I couldn't go after this guy anymore. But secondly, when I sat back and thought about it, it's like, yeah, maybe his mother does. And then I've got one of two options. Maybe his mother's crazy too. And that was an option as well, I suppose. Or the way I was looking at the situation just gave me reason to dislike somebody, but there was maybe something I was missing. And I think this has become something very powerful in business, that if I have a problem with someone, and I train my clients in this, and having meetings with people they have conflict with. If you go in and you have a negative frame of mind about someone, it may be fully justified even in a court of law. And I'm not going to disagree with that. But what I will say is it's not going to put you in the most resourceful frame of mind if you're going in with that fight or flight, anger, fury, rage, all those negative emotions to go and deal with that person, So being able to actually, choose the mental state you want to go in. And again, my focus is not on justifying what anybody's done, but it is about making sure my clients are in the best frame of mind possible to deal with what they have to deal with. And if in that negative, overwhelmed fight or flight mentality, it's not going to be a good outcome there.
That's right. It made me think about something that I always got told, and that's that you never know what someone else is going through. So just try and be kind. Try and have a positive outlook towards the interaction, because who knows what they're going through. The old one getting told, like, if we all got together and got our problems out and threw them in a big pot, you'd see other people's problems, you'd grab your own problems back and run.
Yeah.
So, like what you said there, and just trying to, his mother still loves him. Yeah, he might have his own problems as well. That's why he's having it's coming across as that kind of person. So you don't know what they're struggling through.
Yeah, there is that. I think, though, that, again, and I think in theory everybody would agree with that, but then you have people who will be listening to this and say, well, they'd be thinking about somebody they've had a problem with. And, I think a big thing with that, particularly in business, is making sure you protect your downside risk. You don't want to get taken advantage of, in situations, because, I think in business, with a possible exception maybe of politics, in business, you certainly have a lot of people who will play, these Machiavellian or sort of power games as well, manipulation, and it's an extreme minority of people. But again, if I'm training people to be able to deal with those extreme, small numbers of people, it's also about protecting that downside. But yeah, to understand that maybe their behavior is down to something else as well. But yeah, no, you're right on
there. Very good. My next one comes from my mate at jiu-jitsu. My mate Taylor at jiu-jitsu taught me a beautiful lesson about asking for help. And this stemmed from me I'm apparently I'm a little bit stubborn or tenacious, as I get told, and I don't like to ask for help, and B, it turns out I don't like to tap in jiu-jitsu too early. Both have their downsides. And because I've always thought of myself as, my grandfather used to have the thought process that if someone else has built that, I can fix it. Someone else has had a go at that, and someone else has built that, I can do that too. I just need that set of skills. I can do that. He was a farmer, lived on a fisherman, lived in a remote area of New Zealand. So calling the mechanic to come and fix it wasn't an option. Calling a carpenter up there to get to come fix it. So he had to learn how to do this stuff himself.
Yeah.
Which his sons did. My mum, my dad, they're all kind of just get out there and do it. Everything from fixing cars and building houses to planting and cutting trees and digging holes and all sorts of stuff. So it just stems that I figure I can do stuff by myself, and I never like to ask for help. And so me and Taylor were talking after jiu-jitsu one night, and we were talking along those lines, and he said to me, but Cuzzy, you love to help people, don't you? I said, I love to help people. It makes me feel so good. And he goes, so why are you denying other people that feeling by not letting them help you?
Wow.
Oh, man, that's the realization that hit me with was huge. I was denying everyone else the benefit of just coming to help me, whether I actually thought they were helping me or not, or whether I thought I needed the help wasn't the point. It was more the I guess the camaraderie or think all I do is think of others, and I'm not letting other people help me. So I didn't realize that side of things. So don't be afraid to ask for help. There's more to it than just getting the job done. Yeah, I didn't realize that part.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he's right on the money there with that, mate. As far as I think a lot of the time it's staunch, it's independent, and but we don't also. And I get it, because I'm exactly the same with regards to, I don't want to put anybody else out. It's like, even down to, like back in the day when I'd say to you and Flace and James, and I said, you guys all got families and people who sort of rely on you. So if you want to catch up, I'm not going to chase you. You come to me because I've got more flexibility than you do. And that was the only reason I do that. Is not because I want to be sort of distant from anybody, but it's just like, I know you guys got more priorities, so it's not, I don't want to weigh anybody down on that, But
yeah, that's right. That plays a big part in it as well. Like asking some of my mates, like the big fella or whatnot. I know he's busy. He's got 4 daughters, and he's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
All his kids are younger than mine, so I know certain times of the day I can't call them because he's trying to feed them, sit them down, get their hair brushed, and get them off to school.
Yeah.
So, and I've been there at those times, and I've seen the chaos that ensues. So I don't want to call him. Maybe if he's got a spare 10 minutes, he could use it just to sit down and relax and comb his own hair. But it's so making sure that I didn't put people out or upset people probably played a big part as well. But I'm trying. I'm getting there. I'm still not tapping at jiu-jitsu unless I really, really have to. I'll tell you that,
mate. But there's another side to that as well. It's like, because if somebody catches you with something, and I experienced this, I think when you were away on holiday, I caught a couple of guys with a few things, and it was just like, I know I've got you. And it's like, but then the other thing is how far do I crank before something pops? And it's just like, because people, you catch somebody with a Kimura, or people's shoulders have different flexibility. If somebody catches something, tap. Because it's like, because I mean, I just started letting, as soon as I locked something in, I felt it there and I knew it was there, and I've just stopped. I've just let it go, because it's like, I know I can crank it if I need to, but this guy's not going to try. And then I don't want to roll with people like that. I really don't. It's like, if you can, because the worst thing, my concern is if I do start cranking and hurt somebody, that's like that, we've spoken about this before. It's not a nice situation,
Yeah, it's something you'd replay in your mind over and over again.
Yeah, so I've got no problem with tapping, man. If you catch something and I can't get out of it, I'm not tapping. I've got no problem with that.
Oh, yeah, if it's in and, there's no getting out, I'll tap, but you have to make sure it's in and in well for me to tap. Okay. So, But don't be afraid to ask for help, people. It's not just yourself that's getting the reward. The other person gets a reward as well.
Absolutely. And the reverse side of that is that it's impossible to do something nice for somebody without feeling good about yourself. So correct. I think to echo what you've said there and what Taylor said, definitely it's it is that gift of contribution,
Yes, it is. I agree. Hard learned one. I'll get there, mate.
Fantastic. Okay, my last one. And I don't even know where this came from. I've got a feeling it came from the nightclubs as well, but I think it served me well, is you're either part of the solution or part of the problem. And it's like, if you're in a situation, either you're contributing or you're taking. You're part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And I think those two questions have on reflection, I think it's a great thing to be able to give you some degree of self-awareness. If I'm in a situation here and maybe there's a little bit of conflict, okay, Am I part of the solution or am I part of the problem? There might be sort of 51% one direction, 49% the other direction, stuff like that. But it's very often it's a nice question just to observe, to really think about that aspect of self-awareness. Am I contributing here or am I taking?
Yes, I agree. And this is probably not going to come out right, but there's a lot of people I know, like our big mate Flace, who are both part of the problem and then they think they're the solution as well. And generally they come up with a solution to a problem that they started in the first place and should never really have been a problem because they weren't thinking about it. And then back to my last point, he's had to call me for help and I've got to go over there and fix it. So yes, there are times when you can be part of the solution and the problem, but if you put some thought process into it first, people, I'm sure you'll avoid that issue.
That could be almost like creating your own marketplace, you know.
Yes, man.
Funny enough, I got this solution here as well.
Yes, an ingenious problem to a solution that never should have happened in the first place. So
absolutely.
No, I like that one. I really do like that one. It's something that I've always thought of. Part of the problem, part of the solution. What are you going to be? If you've got nothing good to say, just stay out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. A good aspect of self-awareness there, right?
Yes, correct. Now, my last one is all about keeping a growth mindset and never stop learning. This is something that I got caught with. I spent years as a carpenter thinking that was all I was ever going to be. You know, just carpenter. That was my place in the world, and I didn't really look at learning much outside. I did a little bit of cars here and there, played some sport. But then when I met your kind self, and you started to push me on a few things, and I started to change a few habits and get into some reading, some audiobooks. I tried audiobooks. To be fair, I tried audiobooks a few years before, but I was more reading novels at that time, and it was so boring. Oh, the people reading it put you to sleep.
Yeah.
But then when I switched over into more educational books and the whole learning was just amazing. It just switched on this part of my brain that I now can't switch off. Thank you very much. My brain's very curious, wants to know all about everything. I've had to put in little habits and little stop breaks to make sure I don't end up doom scrolling on Instagram because I go down rabbit holes with things like that and then start getting distracted from what I'm supposed to be doing. But a learning or growth mindset, whichever way you want to put it, I think is crucial. I think it's one of the fundamental things that you must have in business, and always be learning. Always. When you think you've stopped learning, you haven't. You just haven't looked hard enough, or you need to tangent off and look at what other people are doing. So I know it's something you're big on, Paulie.
Yeah, because on that, and I know we've spoken about this a lot, but what would you say if I said that the ability to keep learning is an absolute key to happiness? What are your thoughts on that?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. The more you learn, the more options you have. If you have no options, then you're in a pretty bad spot. You're in a pretty tough spot. You've got nowhere to go. You're kind of dead-ended. So may not be the road to happiness, may not lead you to happiness, but it'll get you closer than sitting around and having a fixed mindset. Well, I believe.
Absolutely. And I really think that that a lot of the time we get very angry and sort of pent up in ourselves, and then we become subject to sort of, gossip or negativity or booze or drugs or what have you, coffee especially. But it's like, I think that often happens when we get caught in that mindset where we're not consciously aware of this, but we're not evolving, we're not developing, we're not growing. And I really think that, again, that level of self-awareness is not there. It certainly wasn't for me until I read another book about this. This is going back in the day, but it was like literally I was in a job where I didn't feel that I could progress until, it was a kind of role. It was a good role, good job, but it was I couldn't progress until somebody died. That was effectively the situation. And I remember becoming immensely frustrated with that because business was all that I really did. I was doing nothing else, very little else worthy of conversation. But I remember getting very, very frustrated in that situation because you feel like the only thing that's happening is you're getting older. It's second by second, and you're not building anything. You're just like a hamster on a wheel until. And I remember this. I started listening to the book. It was an audio book, but it was on a CD, and it was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I remember listening to it, and I'm thinking, my God, if it was almost like a weight came off my shoulders. It was like, this is an area I can progress in. Because I think that if if we're just sitting there doing the same thing day in, day out, day in, day out, I mean, maybe it's different for people with families and they're watching their families grow and they're investing into their families and stuff like that. I can get it. But I think that we have to be developing and growing in some area of life. We really have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think we're all on some level aware of that mortality that we have. And it's like, what are you doing to make yourself better so that there's some degree of legacy, or, you know, you contribute something to this life, you know?
That's right. We talk about it with a couple of mates as well about how you get caught up in the kids bubble, you know, so to speak. You've got that's different in a way because you're spending all your energy and all your spare time literally growing something on the side, which is a family. And that's probably one of the most important things going around, I believe. So just turning up to work some days after sleepless nights and, you know, is a huge accomplishment. So putting your career or your business on hold, or, you know, put it on just simmering along while you've got a lot going on your family side is something that I fully understand. Coming out of when your kids get older and they leave home, oh man, that's good days. You can go on holidays, Paulie. You can stay at nice hotels.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about where they've run off to in the airport and what have they done now. Where's their passports? It's good times. It really is. But so if you're stuck at a job, or, you know, I'm not saying some people just rock up to their job, they do their 8 hours, they go home, but they're building their thing on the side, or they're into their sports, or they've got something on the side. I remember when I started form working, I went from 50 or 60 hours a week running a few jobs, a couple of guys working for me, and I threw that all in and went form working. We did the wheel here in Melbourne. And after the first few weeks, it was all right. It was good, mate. You get paid every week, but I was a bit bored, and I said to the boys,
"What's form working, mate? What's form working?"
Form working's concreting. So
Okay.
it's all the plywood, the black plywood structure that goes in before they pour the concrete slab on the high rises.
Gotcha.
So, and I said to one of the boys, man, this is a little bit boring. Like, is this all we do? What do you do? And he said, well, I spend most of my days, I've got a 10-second Ford Ute that I race at the drags. And I spend most of my days here thinking about how I can make it go into 9 seconds. And I'm like, well, that's brilliant. Another guy was like, I've got a fishing boat and I'm wondering what part I should put on. So they all had things ticking over on the side.
Yeah.
We're literally just there to pass the time and get some money. So for that reason, I think it's good.
Yeah. I think life's about those stages, really. Different times, different circumstances as well.
That's right.
Which is cool.
Look back and think, geez, glad I got through that. Look where I am now.
It's the person you become, my brother. Hopefully what you amass as well, but it's more about the person you become, I think, because it's
more about the journey, buddy.
Hey?
Absolutely about the journey. And yeah, where I'm at the moment, I'm pretty happy. So
beautiful.
But I think that's about enough advice from us. What do you think?
I reckon you're right on the money there, my man. 100%.
Yeah. I know you've got a big day tomorrow and a big few days ahead of you, so you probably need to get some rest. All the best with that.
Because I'm old. There's a gym downstairs. So I'm gonna go to the gym, and then there's a sauna down there as well. So I'm gonna get that done, and have a good night's sleep tonight, I reckon.
Nice, excellent. Thank you all for listening. I hope this advice has helped you in a little way. By no means is it supposed to be followed to the dead letter of the law and how we said it, please.
Yeah.
But just a rough guide on what we think can help and some things to focus on as you go. Paulie, best of luck. Have a good week. I'll see you when you get back to Melbourne, and I'll see all you guys next week on the next episode. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it, mate.
See you later.
Take care,
Bye.
folks. Cheers,